What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Rage Traders NRL Supercoach podcast. And today, as you can see, it's a brand new setup. Now, I'd love to know what you think of the setup in the comments below. But if you are listening on audio, I've decided to do the podcast from now on in sort of the corner of my studio room rather than just be sitting at the computer. Sort of like just with these massive headphones that are meant for gaming on, etc. And I thought this just looked a bit better as well, a bit more professional. And that's sort of like the angle I want to come at. So I hope you enjoy it. And today we've got an absolute banger for you. You know, we are finishing off sort of like our positional analysis series. And I've decided to like combine positions that sort of work well with each other in regards to dual positions as well. So today is the FRF to RF analysis video, and don't worry, it's not going to go for too long because I've decided to sort of come at it from a different angle. I've wanted to target players that I think are really worthy to talk about. There's no point in really talking about all these players that we know we're going to pick, or a majority of players are going to pick. For example, your Trey Moonies, your Jesse Colquhouns, your Nrl Supercoach. There's really no reason for me to go over and over on the stats of these guys, why they're so high in ownership. That seems a bit silly to me. So I'm actually going to be going through and talking about, you know, more strategical sort of things you need to be thinking about, in my opinion. And obviously, we're not going to leave out, you know, high target players and players that are really important, like Payne, which is what I want to speak about. So before we get started, if you are watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Comment if you have any questions, if you have any feedback, or just for the algorithm, that would be greatly appreciated. And if you're listening on Spotify podcasts, or Apple Podcast, 5-star review, please, guys. I'm brand new to the podcast realm, just started, and every single rating means the world to me. So thank you to those who have done that already. All right, let's get into it. So FRF analysis we'll start with first, and then we'll go into the 2RF. Now, of course, there are some players that do have that 2RF dual position, but I think only one or none that I have here. So we'll go through it. Only one, sorry. So let me start with, let's talk about Payne. So do we have to start with Payne? And is he basically a must-have? Now, I've tinkered a lot with making teams, and for me, I think the scariest player not to have in my team to start with NRL Supercoach is Payne. It's not because of what he did last season. It's not because of him going 100 plus in multiple games. It's because he's just so damn consistent. Now, in a position in front row forward where things changed so much last season, where we were just expecting low scores, we didn't get that. We got two players that really did basically dominate, being Payne and Terrell May. And we had to get onto those two players very quickly. Now, he starts with 104, 99, 140, 82, 51, 83, 85, 123. Okay, that's absolutely insane. Do I expect his numbers to be like that again? No, I actually don't. I do expect him to be anywhere from the 70 to the 85 mark, and I would live with that. However, the thought of him having the possibility of doing that in games, it just scares me. Also, the front row forward position, yes, there can be value there. As I said before, you've got your Nrl Supercoach, you've got your Jermaine Hopgoods, you've got, you know, even people like a Naf White, people we're going to speak about that I think can warrant just being plug-in players there, and you save 300k or 200k, and you don't have to worry about Payne dropping low in money or in his price if he has a bit of an iffy start to the season. But I think it's more of a consistent play when you're picking someone who's highly targeted by a lot of the NRL Supercoach players at the moment. So if we go to Payne just quickly, he's currently at 57%. Like over half of the SC population is picking Payne. Now, I'd rather be on the with than the without, because in the first 3 rounds, as I've said in my Ultimate Beginners video, and as we all know, if he does poorly, we might look at trading him out and just getting that FRF that's going to make us a bit of cash. One trade. We're not going to lose money. it is what it is. But if he starts with these 80s, 85s, 75s, I think we're still going to just sit him in our team and be like, mate, you're doing the same thing. You're offloading here and there. You might not be offloading enough or as much as last season, but it's still going to warrant the pick. And I don't want to talk about him too much, but I wanted to come at an angle for this FRF analysis because I think a lot of people will have him in his team. And if you don't have him in your team, you're like, there's no way I'm starting with him. His price is too high. At the moment, he's sitting at $852,700. That's way too much for me. Why would you start him? I'd love to hear the reason why, who you're looking at going as your double FRF. Now, that's the other thing. If we don't go Haas, who are the two premium or two guys we go in the FRF that can either come close or keep up with him? So I've done a bit of stats on some players that I actually really like that I think we can talk about and go from there. Now, I think Jermaine Hopgood is a very, very good chance of being in a lot of people's teams. I think he also warrants having a price rise. I've spoken about him before. He's $517,900. Now, in his last 8 games playing prop, in the end of the season, he averaged 65 points, with the lowest score being 47 against Melbourne, and his highest score being 75 against Newcastle in the last round. In those last 8 games, he also versed 3 tough oppositions of Broncos, Canberra, and Melbourne. So there is massive, I shouldn't say massive, but there is a high chance that this player, Jermaine Hopgood, actually will make you money. At a price of $517,900, if he can just get to 60 points a game being in a prop position, which he should and likely be in, I think he's just going to warrant being an easy money grab and maybe something we use. Now, this could be the case, and I could be completely wrong here. There is also a chance that he just becomes this player that we hold for a majority of the season. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to have Payne, Haas, Terrell May numbers, Tino Fa'amausula'i numbers. No. But I think there's a chance that you're like, I like what he's doing. There's no need for me to waste a trade here, and I'm going to hold him. So that's the sort of angle I'm coming at. That's what I'm sort of sticking with. And I think he could be a great FRF2 candidate. Next, I have a bit of a unique pick. Lindsay Smith, $618,200. I've always been a fan of Lindsay Smith, to be honest with you. In 2022, averaged 25 points. In 2023, he then went up to 44 points. 2024, he went up to 54 points. And then last season, he averaged 63 points. There's been a continual rise in his game and his efficiency in Supercoach, and now the minutes are representing that. The thing is with Lindsay Smith is, do we see another price rise in him? Or is he just going to be that type of player that sort of sits about that 55 to 65 mark? And are we happy with it? So I think at his price, he's a very consistent pick. He's someone who's got that sort of, just that consistency to him, to be honest with you. Like, I know I should likely have getting no less than 50 to 55 points from Lindsay Smith on a normal game of footy from Penrith Panthers when he's in the team playing the same minutes. So if you're a very consistent player, safe player that just wants someone who is just going to plug away and get you a 55-60, I think Lindsay Smith could be the guy you're looking for. And to me, the price isn't too exy. If he was around $650, $680, I'd be like, no way. But $618,200, I mean, this guy has had games where he's had very, very nice scores. I'll just bring it up quickly because I think he does deserve a bit more warrant. He's a really, really good player, and I think not enough people talk about him. Although he's not like the Supercoach elite, I just think he's great. So started the season last season, Sharks, Sydney, Melbourne, right? Pretty tough. Goes 73 points with 70 base in 60 minutes. Then goes 48 points, 76 points, 71 points, 61 points, 72 points. This guy has the capability of being a 70-plus Supercoach player. So that's why I put him in. I think he warrants the respect. I think he's in a great team that's obviously playing for a premiership and going to try and get that. And I just think he really does sit below the radar in the FRF column. Next, I have Keon Kolomatangi. I always seem to pronounce that a bit wrong. $666,500. I think we are going to see a combo of Haas Colo. I think that'll be sort of like a really go-to combo. Average base of 54, a highest base game of 74 against Melbourne, which is absurd. And I did put him on my avoid list, but maybe he's more of a watch. Now moving to the Dragons next season and coming off a surgery after a tour. If he looks fit and healthy and staying in that prop position, he could be a great pairing with Haas. That's what I wrote here. And I think a lot of people will have Haas-Colo combo, which was what we spoke about, which does sound quite deadly and safe to me at the same time. Another talking point is also Terrell May. The only reason, well, multiple reasons, but I think the biggest one is the buy in round one. I also think people think he won't surpass where he's been at, and he's had a huge minutes per game. Does that come down a bit? Maybe even in the trials, we won't even see that, because a lot of the times you're just sort of getting guys out there to have a bit of a run around, bringing them off. But that's going to be a wait and watch, I think, for Terrell May. And then another pairing I don't mind. I'm not as strong in this pairing as compared to maybe a Lindsay Smith and Jermaine Hopgood, but I thought Nafahu White deserved a bit of a mention at $584,100. 2023 averaged 34, 2024 averaged 38, and then 2025 averaged 60. Does he even go up to a 65-70 this season? The one thing that I'm a bit worried about with his game is he lacks a bit of offloads. I think his highest score was 103, but had a low score of 33. I put here, can he go up another notch with a Gun Roosters team? But he only had 8 offloads in a whole season. If this guy can just produce a bit more offloading, which I wonder if he will this season, I think he'll be a Supercoach beast. But he's not producing that at the moment. And if you're not producing a lot of offloads like the Terrell May, Payne Haas, you're never going to be in that FRF elite. But he's someone who I don't mind. And if someone said to me, I have Naf White in my front row forward in my second pick, I couldn't fold it whatsoever. Next, I'm going to speak about Joe Tarpanay from the Canberra Raiders, $702,300. Averaged in 2022, 66. Dropped down slightly in 23 to 64. Then went to 67 in 2024, and then 2025 went up to 72. Now, he's priced at $702,300, if I didn't mention that. The biggest thing for me is when you're losing one of the biggest players in your team, Jamal Fogarty, is that going to overly impact the team? Not him, essentially, because he is a front row forward, but the one thing I'm concerned about is how much are they going to attack? Are they going to attack at the same pace they were last season? Because the more they attack, the more runs and offload opportunities he's going to have. And I think there's a chance that they won't. I also think there's a point where a lot of people are now doubting Canberra Raiders as a team because of the Jamal Fogarty situation, or just him leaving and going to Manly. And maybe we're overthinking Canberra as a team. They are a very good unit. They seem to be in a great place. They lost the game where they really should have just won, but Broncos are Broncos, and they come back and they fire up and they beat them. You know, are we overlooking one player leaving too much? That's going to be a wait and see, and I guess in time we'll know. But I think, again, if you are the type of player that are thinking, well, FRF is a changed position, we now have to value that position, and we just have to have 2 head honchos in there. And if you said to me, I got Haas and Tarpanay in there, I'd actually be a bit scared. I'd be like, whoa. I'd be whoa, but I'd be like, mate, if they both pop off, you are going to be doing very, very well for yourself. So, again, I like the play of Haas into like a 600,000, 500,000 FRF. But if you want to go sort of balls deep, Tarpanay could be the pick for you. Last I wanted to speak about in the FRF position, Adam Fanua-Blake. Now, some of you might just put your hand on your head and go, you're kidding. $638,900. Now, he's coming off a 73 and 72 average. but then had a 2025 average, well, an average of 65 in 2025, I should say. Through round 19 to 27, he had 3 games under 50 points, and 2 of those games were under 40 points. The thing I wrote here was he just starting to get really, really tired at the end of the season, and the points were reflecting that. He seems like a type of player that starts stronger as well, and maybe we can capitalize on that in the FRF position, especially with the Sharks draw, Gold Coast at home, Penrith away, Dolphins at home, Canberra away, New Zealand at home, Roosters at home into a bye. That's actually quite a nice and friendly draw. And we know what Fanua Blake is capable of. You know, he's not someone that we'd expect to be hitting 30s to 40s. You know, when he left the New Zealand Warriors and he came to the Sharks, we all were talking about him. We all wanted to possibly have him in our team. We were all thinking about it. And at the start of the season, he goes 92 against Penrith, 46 against North Queensland, 61 against South, 78 against the Bulldogs, 73 against Canberra. So against 3 elite teams, he's getting solid points. The thing that worries me the most about him is the minutes. Now, I haven't seen any images of him. I haven't heard anything as of yet. But if he looks fitter, I wonder if there's a tiny bit of like maybe he could play 55 to 60 minutes. But again, sometimes the minutes in his game really worry me. You know, there's a game, generally he's doing anywhere between 45 to 55 minutes consistently. But there's some games here where he's only getting, actually quite a few, 3. He's getting only 43 to 47 minutes. Can we trust that? Can he get a bit of an increase? We'll have to wait and see. But I did think he deserved a mention because I think it's 8% of people are going him. And if 8% of people are going him, maybe you're one of them and you're like put off now by him. Or maybe you're like, you know what? I believe in him. So that is my FRF analysis. I know that there's a lot of other people that are being talked about in FRF, especially like the money makers, the Trey Moonies, the Pasekas, Jesse Colhoun, most really a plethora more. But I wanted to speak about the core. I wanted to speak about the players that I would be looking at targeting or considering, and sort of my strategy as well. Because at the end of the day, I'm coming off giving my opinion and what I'd be looking at doing. I'd be silly to recommend things that I wouldn't do. Again, if I go here by sort of price high to low, we've spoken a bit about the majority of them. We haven't spoken about Patrick Carrigan. I don't really want to speak about him. I'm not really interested. Jack Williams, Parramatta opening draw, really, really tough. Daniel Saifidi, don't want to go there. Corey Horsburgh. Toby Couchman, maybe worth a mention, but again, can be a bit injury prone, more of a wait and watch. We spoke about Naf White, maybe Isaiah Papali, again, to me, a wait and watch, and Penrith have a really tough opening draw. So I think we've gone through the most essential players and ones that we really, really need to speak about in terms of the higher standard players. All right, let's get in the 2RF position now. Hope you're enjoying the podcast and the video so far. And I've actually done something a bit different here in 2RF. I've actually written in categories people I can't start with as I want to wait and watch or just don't trust at the moment, and then who I basically trust and am happy to start with. Then at the end of the video, I actually have 5 pods that I think we should all be watching and making sure that, hey, do we need to select them? Or if you're kind of a risk taker, 5 pods that I would like to mention that maybe you could look at and go one of them or multiple of them, up to you. All right, 2RF. So I'm going to start with Cameron Murray, $548,900 in 2024, an average of 62. Now he has a lot more forwards to contend with. He's coming back from a major injury, and I don't think the price warrants a huge cash rise in him. We also haven't seen anything yet to say, okay, we need him. That's obviously trials dependent. But for me, if he looks like an immediate complete gun in the trials and he's just absolutely looking fresh, healthy, not busting the line, of course, but just like looks like a Tino, looks like someone who's an absolute gun, then we consider it. But for me, with who they've brought in, players they've brought in, there seems to be a chance that he could just be someone that's eased back in. He could be rested here and there. Let's say Souths are having a really good game. To me, he'd be one of the players that comes off the field with like a David Fafita and just gets rested and just says, look, we've won the game, sit off, keep doing your thing. I love what I'm seeing. But that's the way I sort of look at it. Because someone that's can be at an elite status like Cameron Murray, if I'm Wayne Bennett and we're winning 24-10 with 7 minutes to go or something like that, or maybe even a bit more, I'm just like, man, why would I risk Cam Murray? You know, let's get him off the field. Let's get him rested. And we have to wait and see what the minutes are. So for me, Cameron Murray, no-go for now. The next one, for me, is just a no-go, Leka Halasima. Although I don't want to be on the bandwagon. I've seen a lot of like content creators really go against him, and I think it's unfair because he's 502,400, which is a ridiculous price for him. I've written down here, a great player when he has his spark moment, but the best in Supercoach all have consistency, and I don't think he had that last season. That doesn't mean he's not going to have it this season. He's an absolute gun of a player, and we were all saying that all he needed was minutes. This guy is a beast, and if he gets consistent minutes, then we don't know. Has an average base of 36. We can see at the start of the season, 25 minutes, 19 minutes, 29 minutes, 30 minutes, 36 minutes. That's not enough. But towards the, actually, no, that's correct. I thought I was reading his base for a second. But from round 19, 80 minutes for 82 points, 67 minutes for 76 points, 80 minutes for 86 points. Now, if that player that I'm reading out to you, no matter what their name is, if I'm reading those stats out, you immediately say, get them in my team. Now, what scares me is, you know, he can have some lowish scoring games, but the way that he played the back end of the season, he's only 2 bad games. One was against Bulldogs, which you can expect. They're a very, very tough team. 42 minutes for 21 points. And the other one was against Gold Coast, but he only played 25 minutes for 24 points. And then Manly, 74 minutes, 25 points. So he obviously, I'd say, got injured in that Gold Coast game, but against Manly, that's a bit of a tough score. But if this guy's averaging 59, 55 plus against a majority of teams and he's priced at 500,000, I mean, you can't say he's a definite no-go. I think he's just, how many minutes is he going to get? Then we move to him. I mean, they have Sydney Roosters in the opening game. Then they have Canberra at home, Newcastle away, West Tigers. Like against Newcastle, West Tigers, I'm scared, man. This guy could put up an easy 90. Now, they do verse Sharks away in round 5, Melbourne away in round 6. Then it comes into Gold Coast Dolphins para bye. I really like him around that round 7 period. But again, he could just be someone you say, look, I believe in the player. He's getting minutes. I'm going to have him in. I believe in him, and I'm just going to stick with him. And that's completely fine. As I say, in Supercoach, you always go with your gut. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, at least you followed your instinct. So if you are completely in love with Leka Halasima, don't let me deter you, because I don't think he's an overall bad pick. This is what I think about Leka Halasima, and this is 100% correct. The only reason a lot of the content creators and people don't want to go Leka Halasima is because content creators are very safe players. They will look at base. They will look at what another player in the same position like 2RF can achieve, and they will go with the safer pick. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but Leka Halasima is the type of player that I think just needed last season, and this season he could be a really, really, really good pick, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does really well and you see his name in one of the most traded ins in round 3, round 4. That's all I'm going to say. But again, I'll wait and watch, see how he does in the trials, go from there, and maybe a wait and watch in round 1 and round 2, and then jump on him at round 3. All right. Let me bring up my notes again. That would be great. Angus Crichton, I also have $610,200. So much being said, it's his last season. He needs to leave with a bang. But last season, it looked like at times he wanted to leave the NRL already. Now, I was legitimately saying this last season. I was like, what is going on with Angus Crichton? Like, he just does not look like that. It didn't look like he had that origin spark that he generally would in the NRL games. Like, he had this aura about him where he's just like, do not F with me. I will beat you up. I will dominate you. Now, the only thing I like about Angus Crichton is the team that the Roosters have this season. Sam Walker back and healthy, DCE coming into the team. Does that help Angus Crichton a bit? Yes, it could. But from how he was playing, how he sort of looked when he was playing at times, I didn't like what I saw. And I kind of said to myself, this guy it looks like he doesn't want to be there. And essentially he's leaving now, so that is the case. But maybe now that he's settled into knowing where he's going, what he's doing, maybe he does actually give a bit of an oomph last season. But it's down to the person, isn't it? I mean, one person would just want to get out of there, like a Dylan Brown just wants to get out of Eels and go to the Newcastle Knights, and he's like, I'm done. But Angus Crichton, again, we can't hate on him. An average base of 45 points, average 62 points in 80 minutes. Not overly bad considering if I'm saying someone is having an average season and they average 62 points in 80 minutes and their price is around that mark of 610,200, could be a safe-ish pick. Again, I have said in previous podcasts that I think the Roosters are going to be a top 4 team, that I think that they will be a hard team to beat and they'll score a lot of points, but we'll have to wait and see. But for now, I have him as a wait and watch. But if you believe in him, as I said, if you believe in the pick, you go for the pick. And also, he's currently owned by only 11%, which is a bit lower than what I'd expect, to be honest, but maybe people are on the same page. I don't know. All right. Next person I have in who I cannot specifically go for until I see more, Hamoli Olakau'atu, a reasonable price, $650,000. But I put, how much does it go to the right side now with the changes to the team with Jamal Fogarty there? For me, it's a complete wait and watch to see how Jamal Fogarty slots into the team. We know that they love going down the left a bit with Tommy Turbo. However, I just want to see how Jamal fits in and gels with the team, and also the synergy he has with Hamole. And I think that's pretty fair. I mean, I'm not going to take the risk on banking that they just gel straight away. The synergy's there and they're a dominant team, especially with the, Jamal, the halves, and Hamole. Also, he's coming back from an injury. I want to wait and see how that goes. So for me, he's a complete wait and see. But I just can't go there. I just can't go there considering what we have around with the Hamish Stewarts, Jermaine McEwen's. I'm not saying Jermaine's going to be up to the level of that, but I think Hamish Stewart will be great. I think there's a lot of, Lasardi from Melbourne. I think there's a lot of things and a lot of players that just have a bit more safeness to them. And I know I'm comparing like a $250,000 player to, a $650,000 player, but I'll get into who I really like over, Hamoli Olakau'atu. So I've put 2 players here who I can trust. I'm going to start with Tino Fa'amasulai. $687,600. I think last season he really showed us how bulletproof he was. First of all, he came back from a horrific injury. Second of all, Gold Coast Titans were absolutely rubbish last season, but he still averages 51 in base with an average score of 70 points in 58 minutes. To me, that is just absurd, especially with how that team was. And I think he's very, very close to just being a slot in my team. He's a very consistent player, bar some unfortunate injuries, which just happened in NRL in the last 2 seasons. And if he can stay healthy, to me, he is just a safe, consistent lock pick for your 2RF position. Now, we also need to remember, Because my combo was going to be Payne Haas, Jamin Jolliffe is now out for the season with an ACL injury. Because of this, if Tino goes into FRF, he could easily and will get the FRF position as well. That's going to be absolutely huge. And I think if that does happen, he will be a shoo-in in a lot of people's teams. But for me, either way, I just really, really like him. So for me, he's just someone that I can trust as a player. Next, I have one other player, Dylan Lucas at $744,700. An average of 55 in base, which is absurd, but only has his 2RF position now, so no center for him. If he performs well in trials, his ownership will boost up heavily from 5%, which to me is wild. I think the biggest thing is his price tag. If he has a bit lower, if he had a bit lower price tag, I think a lot more people would be on him. But he can sustain, if he can sustain or stay around that price with, what did I write here? You need to write better, mate. But he can sustain or stay around that price with some key positions being replaced in Newcastle Knights. He's a great pick and not a huge risk. I don't know if you'd be willing to lose a bit of money on him, but usually he will get that try and try assist. We expect Newcastle Knights to be better. And I just think that he is the type of player that when you watch a game and you don't have him in your team, you are very, very scared. He's almost got that Turbo vibe of him where you don't own Turbo, you don't own Dylan Lucas, and you're watching the game and you're like, please, please, just do not do anything good for me to hate not having you in my Supercoach team. So I think personally between the two, I prefer Tino. I think just because of one, the price difference, you're looking at about a $50,000 to $60,000 price difference. Both were in horrible teams last season, so that could be said for something. One was a bit more injured in the other. Dylan Lucas had a bit of issues, but so did Tino. So I think choosing between them is nice. I prefer Tino, but we all know Dylan Lucas is capable of some very, very big games and some high ceilings. So maybe that leans you a bit more towards Dylan Lucas. All right. That has completed who I can trust and not trust in 2RF. Going from the highest price to lowest price like we did with FRF, Hudson Young, I just don't trust the Canberra Raiders with the halfbacks, and I don't trust their opening draw. I think that their opening draw against Manly away, New Zealand away, then Bulldogs. Then they have Sharks at home, and Bulldogs is at home. Newcastle away, Souths away, then Melbourne at home. Not a very easy draw. I think he's priced at $754,000. I think that's a bit too much. Eli Katoa, we obviously know what's happening there. And then there's some others I'm actually going to get into, so I'm not going to talk about them now. I'm not going to talk about them in a sense of going down the list, but let me bring up my pods for you. So my pods that I have in the FRF and 2RF position, I think most of them are 2RF. And then I think I have one in FRF who's a cheapie that we need to talk about. Let me just check. Yeah, he's 2RF FRF. So I'm going to start with Jacob Preston. 2RF, 7% ownership. So for our pods, we're only going to do 10% and lower. 684,000, but has the round 2 bye. We know his caliber, and he can literally be the reason Bulldogs win games. And with Curran leaving and Bulldogs trying to win a premiership, maybe he is a great pick that is going under the radar. Now, I think a lot of what is deterring people from someone like Preston, your kick-outs, even your Karaz sometimes, is the round 2 bye. But I don't really look... If it's not a round 1 bye, I don't really care. Like, I understand people not going Terrell May, but round 2 bye, I'm not really worried about. I think if I saw him in someone's team, I wouldn't hate on it. And he's a great player. I just think the buys really deter people off too much in Supercoach, but someone that can go an average of 70 points in 79 minutes, an average base of 50. I mean, started off the season a bit slowish with a 49, a 66, and a 47, but he's capable of a 122 in round 4. He's got a 141 in round 26 against Penrith, most probably a rested game, I'd say, for Penrith. But, he averages around that price. Now, is his price a tiny bit too much? Maybe, but it's tinkering on being just around what he scores at. I mean, a great average, a great player, and Bulldogs should be an even better team this season. We know what they're trying to do, so we'll have to wait and see. Next, I have Briton Nikora, 3% ownership, only $570,000, $100. Can I speak English? I'm just going to say $570,000. We know what he can do on a good day. I should say that out loud. He has a very, very low price, in my opinion, for what he can produce. However, he's similar to a Viliami Kickow. From basically, his floor can be quite low, but his ceiling can be very, very high. But on an average day for Briton Nikora, you just want to turn the TV off if he's in your team. I had him, I think, 3/4 of the way into the season. I thought he was going to do really well with the Sharks draw. He did absolutely nothing for me. But at that price, 571, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't say it. $570,100. There we go. I'm a beast. I just think that is way unders for what he can produce. Sharks have a nice opening draw, which we've spoken about. And I think he could be quite a niche pick that not a lot of people go to and maybe are scared from some of the numbers he did last season. And that's okay. I completely understand that. And I think another thing is who we have and what we have offered in the 2RF position puts people off a bit. But we know what he's capable of. I mean, he goes 108 against St. George, then 103 against Broncos. That's absolutely massive. That's in rounds 15 and 16. But again, his floor can be quite low. When he has an average game, you're looking about anywhere between that 39 to 45 mark. But in saying that, now that his price is at 510,000 or whatever I said it was, 570,000, sorry. You know, is it a bit too much? I don't know. I think he's a guy that can do very, very well with the opening draw. Is he a big risk? Yes, but he's also a pod I think we do need to talk about. Next, I call this man Mr. Consistent. 2% ownership for Beau Fermor. $650,700. I swear I didn't go to school. I call him Mr. Consistent because in the last 5 games, only had one score under 55 points. And to me, in a team that performs so poorly, that is quite a solid stat. Let me just double check that because that sounds like something I've made up. Was it last 5? No, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sorry, last 9 games. So in his last 9 games, he goes 66, 65, 53, 61, 78, 65, 75, 67, 59. I mean, it doesn't get more consistent than that. If you want to plug someone in, he doesn't have CTW dual this season, but if you want to plug someone in that I think is just going to get you an easy 55, 60, it's Beau Fermor. The team's going to be better this season. There's no doubt about that. And I think, do I think he's going to make you money? Most probably not a huge amount, but do I think he's someone you could just sit there and not have to worry about? 100%. Now, my next one is someone who I'm keeping a massive eye on. 1% ownership. Kai Pearce-Paul. $604,500. Average of 50 in base for the Knights who performed horribly. We know about that. I think he can up on his price and be around 65 to 67. However, the round 1 buyers put a lot of people off. If he looks the goods in the trials, I won't be scared of the buy and he will be in my team. Out of all these players, Kai Pearce-Paul is someone who I'm heavily monitoring. I think he was underused in Newcastle Knights. I think they didn't utilize him to the way he liked playing footy, and it looked and felt very, very awkward. And I think that is going to happen a bit more and a bit better at West Tigers. Also, I really do like the West Tigers opening draw besides the round 1 bye. They have North Queensland at home, which should be a points fest. They then have Souths away, into New Zealand away, into Para away. Sure, 3 away games in a row, but again, points should be scored in those matches. Then they have Newcastle at home, into Broncos, Canberra, Sharks away, and Melbourne, which is a very tough period around that round 8. But that could be a period where you possibly could look at moving him on around round 7 because they go Broncos, Canberra, Sharks, Melbourne, Manly, bye into Bulldogs. That's a very tough patch. But if you're not going to own Kai Pearce-Paul at all, I'd say like in that period, there's only really 2 periods you'd want him. One is the start and forget about the bye and just take the hit. And 2 is around round 15 where you get him against Gold Coast, Dolphins at home, both of those games, Newcastle away, St. George away, New Zealand at home. Now, the thing is with the West Tigers, I feel like they start the season way better than they finish the season. Or they just have more energy, like every other team does. But West Tigers at home to North Queensland, playing against South, I think they want to have a better season. They obviously want to have a better season. They've got him in, and I think he's just going to have a better role at West Tigers. Now, I'm not saying he's a shoo-in. I'm not saying he's someone you have to have in your team. I'm just saying monitor him because he's a great player and his base is really, really good. If we go to him just quickly, average of 50 in base, average 62 points in 79 minutes. He's an 80-minute player. I mean, you can just see here how consistent in his scores he is. 65, 89, 64, 62, 41, 52, 65, 89, 97. Like, he's really just tinkering kind of below his price. And again, if he just gets utilized in a better way, I think he's going to really, he might make you a bit of money, but just be a great solid pod pick. Last I have, it's just a cheapie. You may know or may not, but may not know, but with the Jamin Jolliffe injury, essentially, obviously someone or some people are going to have to replace his minutes. Curtis Morin, 6% ownership, 260,000, could replace the minutes of Jamin Jolliffe, could be an easy cheapie, could be someone you look at. So just make sure you put him down if you don't have him down, because he could warrant being a nice little cheapie pick that could assist you in making some money or not having to worry about that FRF4 position in any case. That's it. That is my 2RF, my FRF 2RF analysis. I hope you've enjoyed the way I did this, a bit different. I hope you enjoyed the way I tried to pronounce price tags at some points. That was a bit awkward, but we all struggle in some areas. By the way, thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel, guys. I really, really appreciate the support. I hope you liked this new setup. Let me know what you think in the comments below, with being in the corner of my studio with the light, etc. Little fluffy basketball. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Make sure to like, subscribe, and of course, 5-star review on the podcast. I'll catch you soon. Wolfie from the Rage Traders. Take care and Supercoach well. Peace.